Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. We just hit 43.4k subscribers. Let's get to 44k by the end of the month. Please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel before we get started. But first, let me tell you guys about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. Are you ready for what the future brings? Every day the news headlines get worse and worse. Civil unrest, the second wave of COVID-19, economic collapse, massive suffering, not to mention what Mother Nature will do. Hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, wildfires, it's all there. The question is, will you be prepared? If you don't already have an adequate supply of long-term emergency food, it's like driving around without wearing your seatbelt while thinking you'll have time to put it on right before an accident. I urge you guys to build your emergency food supply now because there is no time to waste. And as always, my highest recommendation goes to the company I personally trust and use, and you can too. It's My Patriot Supply, the go-to experts in emergency preparedness. Their mission is your survival, and right now they're knocking off $100 off a 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious food that's specially packaged to last up to 25 years, so make sure you don't pass this up. I believe that everyone has a personal responsibility to have at least 4 weeks emergency food on hand at all times, and you can order yours within a matter of minutes. Just go to preparewithredeagle.com right now. That's preparewithredeagle.com. And today we have to talk about this. Joe Biden has selected Kamala Harris to be his vice presidential candidate. And I cannot tell you how excited I am because of this. Because honestly, I was a little bit scared of Gretchen Whitmer. Susan Rice, she had a little bit of a corruption scandals, but her expertise, kind of was a strength to her own standpoint. But Biden decided to go off on a limb and do the unthinkable. He picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate. This is absolutely hilarious, and it is a victory for conservatives, and I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to say why this is not going to help Biden, because Kamala Harris is really not that strong of a VP candidate, and in fact, it's going to be a very consequential pick, and I'll talk about why that exactly is. And why Kamala Harris is weak. And we know Kamala Harris is weak. Look back at the 2020 Democrat presidential debates that took place in 2019. Kamala did jump up in the polls when she was in the gutter, at 5%. She went up to 20 because she was the only one that had the nuts to attack Joe Biden on his record, and Biden stumbled, which obviously, Trump's going to be attacking Biden on his record nonstop. That's why I think Trump, assuming that there are going to be debates, would actually gain significantly from debating Biden, at least with undecided voters. And we know what happened with Kamala after that. Kamala debated Tulsi Gabbard, and Tulsi Gabbard ripped into her in terms of her past experience and such, and it hurt her for good. She fell down from 10% to 5% to 3%. She fell below Andrew Yang, and then she dropped out in the, I guess you would say early December. I think it was December 3rd. That's when she pulled the plug on her campaign. So I think that Pence is not going to have that much of a hard time. He took care of business with Tim Kaine. I think he can take care of business with Kamala. And we know exactly about her history of being weak and hypocrisy. She doesn't exactly align with the far left of the party and doesn't exactly align with the moderates, at least not the voters. You look at her record, it's very wishy-washy. A lot of flip-flopping going on, and a lot of it stems from hypocrisy and psychopathy, honestly. If you look at what she said about weed, you look at what she did. She locked up a bunch of people for smoking weed. Then she was laughing about it, saying that she was smoking weed in the 90s, listening to music that didn't come out yet. And I tell people that don't attack Kamala Harris on this because there's a lot more effective things. I don't think attacking Kamala for being, too conservative or too pro-law and order on her past is necessarily a good thing. But I will say that if people want to run their mouth on the left about this to, depress the levels of Biden enthusiasm, go right ahead. Don't stop those people. But I think that from a conservative standpoint, we should focus more of our energy attacking Kamala Harris in terms of the lack of law and order instead of too much law and order, talking about her record in the Senate, which was very, very far left. I'm going to get to that in a second. But the whole thing shows she's a hypocrite. It shows she's a psychopath. If you look at how she treated Kavanaugh, she is a very, very nasty human being. And if you look at what she did, and the hypocrisy is showing now that she is going on the Biden campaign, Biden having a much more serious, much more accurate and credible allegation thrown at him. No, she'll sweep that under the rug, despite the fact she said that she would believe Biden accusers, despite the fact she said that Biden was racist. Now she's going back on those things, and she's joining them because Orange Man bad, but mainly because she is a psychopath and or has zero integrity. So that tells you a lot about Kamala Harris's character right there. I'm not even going to go into all of the stuff about her past. I could do it. But again, the channel is being a little bit more professional. We're kind of more of a, I guess you would say, trying to be on the family-friendly side of things. But if you guys are interested, just look up Kamala Harris, Willie Brown. You guys know the whole story about that. You guys know the whole ordeal. But now it's time that we look at Kamala Harris's political positions that are just very far left necessarily in terms of hurting her. In terms of the voters in the middle. This is why the campaign is being pushed far to the left, just like Biden. I made a video talking about why Biden's policies are no longer moderate. He's moving far to the left, at least on social issues, economic issues like healthcare. He's kind of in the middle, and that's hurting him with the far left voters that may stay home, that were voting for Bernie Sanders in the primary. But Kamala Harris, make no mistake, is one of the furthest left politicians in the United States of America. In fact, she votes further left than 97% of Democrats and 99% of the Senate as a whole, and even has a more liberal voting record than Bernie Sanders. She's called for abolishing private health care, which would knock 150 million Americans off of their plans, before she decided to backtrack and say that she wasn't in favor of that, and she's flip-flopped several times on the issue. She supports sanctuary cities openly, which even, a liberal city like Tucson voted overwhelmingly against sanctuary cities for illegal aliens, saying we're not going to listen to the federal agents, we're not going to deport illegals. So she's basically calling for open borders here because that's what it would do. If America becomes a sanctuary country, you are going to see mass immigration from places like Honduras, El Salvador, countries that have murder rates far higher than Detroit, the south side of Chicago, and Baltimore. They're like 75 per 100,000 people. It's insane. And she has compared ICE, our great men and women of ICE, the law enforcement at the border, which are majority Latino, by the way, 52% of ICE is Latino. She has compared them to the KKK, a former domestic terrorist organization that wanted to bring back slavery back in the day. She's supporting ICE, which is, trying to keep our country safe, to racist, KKK people. It's insane. And she said illegal aliens are not criminals, which defies all common logic. She wants to give them free health care. So she's not standing up for the American people. She's standing up for illegal aliens. And when it comes to the American people, she likes to take their rights away. You look at the gun rights issue, she said that she wants to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, which are very broad categories, and they very well could be misused in terms of the policies she would want to implement. And we saw this in California, where she wanted to microstamp guns and things like that as Attorney General. It was an absolute disaster. And if you want to talk about energy policies, we always like to make fun of AOC for supporting the wacky, Green New Deal that would cost trillions of dollars into the economy. And she actually co-sponsored the bill. She co-sponsored the Green New Deal. So again, Trump gets to run against the Green New Deal in this situation. She also supports banning offshore drilling and banning fracking. Yeah, you're going to win Pennsylvania and Texas when you support banning offshore drilling and banning fracking. And if you want to talk about this last policy point, and there's many, many more than I'm going to list here, by the way, she supports abortion up to crowning. She didn't set a limit. She said she supports late-term abortion. She supports it up until the baby's crowning. This isn't even a viability thing. Most European nations set the limit at 12 weeks. Kamala Harris supports it up to birth, partial birth abortion. Until the baby's crowning, it can be killed. That's absolutely insane. It's reprehensible morally, has literally no place in politics or, public discourse anywhere, but here we are anyways. And if you guys want to talk about the impact, because you talk about how VP candidates don't necessarily impact the general election candidates' main result, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But in terms of the polls that we've seen, she does not help Biden with anybody. In fact, she wasn't a very strong candidate even in California. She barely beat a Republican in the 2010 California Attorney General slot. She needed the Libertarian Party and the Constitution Party to take votes away from the Republican Attorney General candidate just so she would have a shot to win. In terms of being in the Senate, her senator approval rating in California is 42%. Hillary Clinton got 63% of the vote in California in terms of a comparison. And I'm not saying by any way that Kamala Harris would be at risk of losing California or she would, would hurt Biden a whole lot in California. I'm saying she doesn't really drum up the enthusiasm in her own home state. She has a 42% approval rating, 37% disapprove, a lot of people with no opinion. That's not necessarily good. You want to bring somebody to the ticket that has a very, very high approval rating. Kamala Harris doesn't exactly do that. And in terms of polling that we've seen, it shows that she does not help Biden whatsoever. In fact, she hurts Biden. She hurts Biden 1% with non-college whites, although I assume it's much higher based on all of the patronizing things she said. 2% with college whites. And this is a big one. 5% with non-white men and 1% with non-white women. So a lot of the people are saying Kamala Harris is going to help because she's the first minority female on the ticket playing these identity politics, not necessarily because a lot of the people, on the far left especially, see the record when it comes down to things like criminal justice and they say, oh, she's too conservative. And a lot of the moderate people are saying, no, she's too far left on these issues. So she's going to get eaten by her own significantly in terms of the Democrat Party base. She does help 1% with white women. Although all of this was taken before Trump has released ads, attacking her on policy, things like that. And we know that the far left and the moderates are not fine with her. She's too far left for the moderates. She's too moderate for the far left. And every single state, pretty much, it's going to hurt Kamala Harris, at least in the short term to the long term. If anybody tells you Kamala Harris is going to help with minority voters or help in the suburbs, it's just simply not true. The so-called data that these people rail about just doesn't exactly back it up completely whatsoever. And you guys want to talk about implications. People are going to say, oh, the VP doesn't matter. Mike Pence didn't, help Trump that much or hurt Trump that much. And Mike Pence actually did help Trump a lot. In fact, it kind of got Trump, an outsider, a lot of establishment backing and evangelical backing within the Republican Party. And a lot of Democrats do admit that Joe Biden is not capable of being in office for 4 years. There was a poll that came out that said most Democrats, 59% of Democrats, say that Biden's VP will, quote-unquote, likely be in office by the end of Biden's first term. So a lot of people, Trump will have an ability to attack Kamala on this. He already did in one of the ads. He said Biden is the transition candidate, and he could not be more correct there. And again, Trump has to prove that Kamala is bad if he wants to win, because essentially he's running against Kamala as much as, if not more, than he's running against Biden. I can guarantee you that the conservative enthusiasm is going to be through the roof because of this. It was already much higher than Biden's. Kamala not necessarily giving much of an enthusiasm bump. Maybe she can give it a couple points here, but that's probably going to be gone after the convention. And I don't expect this to tank Biden in the polls overnight, by the way. I think he might actually go up a point or two, between now and the convention, but it's not going to be because of Kamala. It's going to be in spite of Kamala. And I think that if Trump plays his cards right, gives a good speech at his convention in Gettysburg, it could very well be a downward slide for Biden from here on out. So the bottom line here, and we're going to wrap this up in conclusion, is that this does not help Biden. In fact, it hurts Biden. If Biden can still win this election, absolutely. In fact, most polls show he's favored to, although I have my own criticisms of them. But the bottom line here is that if Biden wins, it's going to be in spite of Harris. It's not going to be because of Harris. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. And by the way, you guys can become a member now by hitting the join button if you are on a laptop or desktop computer. If not, I will put a link to join the channel in the description for mobile users. Anyways, guys, also follow me on social media. Donate to the Patreon or subscribe. Star links in description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.